Grassa for Gen FKD here for another exciting episode of Bookstr Business, joined by none other than Shelley Zalis. She is the CEO and founder of the Female Quotient. How you doing?
I'm really excited to be here, especially on International Day of the Girl. So thank you for bringing girl power to the conversation.
Yeah, and this conversation is all about girl power and female empowerment. That is your background. Tell us how you got into this space.
You know, it's hard to actually say this because you might not believe it, but it was by accident. I could not have written the script for where I am today. My background comes from market research. I'm the pioneer of online research. Have you ever taken those horrible surveys on the internet?
I love taking surveys. I think I'm very strange, but I enjoy taking surveys because I feel like it helps us design our own surveys when we want to do that.
Oh, well, listen, we need to know about everybody. You know, everyone's voice matters, which is why, you know, surveys are so important. But I come from the world of research. I was the only female CEO on the top 25 my whole career. And I realized it was time to create a girls' lounge. There's a boys' club. Women never felt comfortable. So I created a girls' lounge so that all women feel like their voices are heard and collectively we're way more powerful. But it's a place where even men are welcome. Everyone is welcome, but men are the minority and women are the majority. So you flip the balance, you transform the culture, and that's when change happens.
So let's talk a little bit about the problem. So males and females are 50-50, right? And we start off our careers fairly even, but then when we get up to the higher echelons of nearly any industry, suddenly there's a lot more men than women. Why is that?
Well, we start actually 51-50, you know, we start 51-49, so even women at slightly higher levels. So entry level is really not the problem, as you said, and we end at about 17% in the C-suite, and that just dropped a little bit with Indra, the former CEO of PepsiCo.
So one person left, and that's
how few of us there are. And so we say the real problem is in middle management, which we call the messy middle. And it's a point in women's careers where they gain more responsibility at home, more responsibility at work. It's where work-life balance issues come into play. And caregivers are still predominantly women. And so this is where there's that opt-in, opt-out moment in our lives, and one of three things happen. We either rise to leadership, but have our challenges with how do we, quote-unquote, do it all, or we opt out completely, and coming back in is not as easy as it seems. You know, these returnship programs are not as wonderful as they appear to be. Or we start our own businesses, like I did, to write our own rules and make the exception the new norm. So that's what I chose to do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because we think about a lot of these issues from a bird's eye view, right? But your personal experience, you did it, you have 3 kids. How did you, quote unquote, have it all or get as close to it as possible?
Well, you know, first of all, I say I have it all my way. So it doesn't mean that my way is the right way for everyone, but you have one life with many dimensions. Your family, your career, never forget about your girlfriends, right? Your community, and most importantly, the one that we always forget about is ourselves. But at every stage of life, you can't choose all 5 of those dimensions equally. You need to pick and choose based on your life stage. And when you look at the rules in the workplace, traditionally in the corporate world, the rules were written over 100 years ago by men for men because women weren't in the workplace. And so I decided to, you know, I was a CEO, but I was very well known as a chief troublemaker, and mainly because I had to break the rules that made no sense if I truly was going to thrive in the workplace and make it work for me and my life. And that's what I did. I rewrote the rules that made no sense, the uncorporate rules. I wrote the new ones, and that is really how I rose the ranks and brought my best self to work. And family first. Family always came first. And I have 3 amazing kids, but I also have an incredible husband, a partner at home where there was no definition of mother, father. We were both parents. And my husband had responsibility for certain aspects of our life, and I had the other, you know, half of the responsibility. When he was out of town, I had to assume his responsibilities, even if I can't tie the skates as tight.
It was just partners.
Fine. We were partners, and I think that was really the biggest secret to how we both have successful careers is we share the responsibility at work and at home.
So how do you balance as a woman in the workplace, which is very male dominated, and as you said, made for men, written for us, by us, but really for men, right? These rules were made far before women entered the workplace and far before they were even thought to be capable of being in the corporate suite, the C-suite. How did you balance being a female, being true to yourself, and not just imitating male behavior? Because a lot of times I read and I've seen and I hear from women that they feel like they have to act like males to get ahead.
God, I love that question. No one really asks me that question. And my favorite quote is from one of Sarah Jessica Parker's movies. I don't know how she does it. And she says, trying to be a man is a waste of a woman. And I really love that because, you know, we have traditionally, women at the top have conformed to the rules that were given to them, which don't really work for us. And I think the only way change happens is when we transform them and create the next new. And, you know, the only way to do that is by being bold and brave and fearless and taking steps that might not have been done before, which means you need to be willing to sometimes fail to succeed if you're the first at doing things. And I always had that mindset that you need to be the first, the second, and the third. The first is always the one that creates the new ideas, a new ecosystem, but no one follows or no one believes that it's right, and you have to make all the mistakes. The second is the copycat. They come in, they copy what you've done, they, you know, create.
Ride your coattails?
They ride on your coattails. And then the third is always the sweeper. They have embraced, you've now built a momentum, they embrace it, they get the funding, and they win. So I've always said you need to be the first, the second, and the third. So if you're going to create new rules, you also need to create the new ecosystem for change and not try to wait for legacy to catch up, because legacy runs pretty fast. You need to close that door, open a new one, and move forward as a pack. I always say a person alone is power, collectively we have impact. You got to go together. That's when change happens.
And what can males do? Because obviously I'm a male. What can we do to support women and create more equality in places like the workplace?
Well, you know, we say that diversity is good for business, and we have tons of facts supporting that. If we close the gap, if, you know, we truly have equality in the workforce, which according to a lot of reports today, the prediction is it will take over 218 years to realize gender parity in the workplace.
That's a bit long.
You willing to wait for that?
I think I'll be 6 feet under by then.
Okay, well, there you have it. And, you know, and if we do close the gap, we can add over $28 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. So we know all of these things, and yet we continue to go backwards. And one of the most important things we need to realize, and thank you for asking, David, the role of men, it's the role of humans in the transformation. Gender equality is not a female issue, it's a social and economic issue. We're all in this together. Women are 50% of the population. We can't just talk to ourselves. If we truly want to transform culture in the workplace, it's a leadership conversation. Whether you're a man or a woman, it's leadership, from, you know, parity conversations to culture of care and belonging to advancement from mentorship and coaching men and women of what respect is in the workplace today. And it's leadership, it's values, it's communication, and most importantly, it's accountability for change. Until we can hold ourselves accountable and realize that each and every one of us are responsible for taking the next step and doing something, then we'll continue to go backwards. We can't keep admiring the problems. We have to activate solutions for change together.
So let's talk about this as a business issue before we move on to the flood of audience questions that are coming in, and we're looking for your questions. You know, one of the things during the financial crisis now 10 years ago, right, it said that, you know, if females had been in charge of those investment banks, we might have avoided the financial crisis, because most studies show that females are much more conservative when it comes to decision making and don't take as much risk as males. And that a lot of the problems that came out of the financial crisis stem from lack of diversity in the C-suite on Wall Street. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's plenty of facts that diverse companies do better, and I think by at least 38%. Don't quote me on that number, but I think it's about 38.
It's significantly better.
It's significantly better, and this is interesting because I think it's perception reality. Perception, when there's a hurricane named after a woman, people prepare less. It doesn't mean that it's less damaging, but people
That's horrible.
right? People prepare less. And I think that, I asked a group of people the other day, what are the best characteristics of leaders today? I asked men and women. The top 2 answers of the best leaders today are empathy and caring.
That's a lot about this, huh?
Empathy and caring. And I said, well, that's interesting. I never have seen a job description looking for a CEO that has empathy and, is a caring individual. And it's not about male, female. It's about the masculine and the feminine. There's plenty of women with women with masculine qualities and plenty of men with feminine. Masculine, decisive, assertive, aggressive,
That's what
linear,
we associate with
analytic.
success.
Exactly. And the feminine, nurturing, empathetic, passionate, collaborative. And those are truly the best characteristics. And so when you think about, the best leaders in crisis, it's the ones that also can contextualize the story. It's not a linear, you're going from here to here, which are the masculine qualities. It is someone that can put the story and the pieces together and zig when others are zagging and be able to navigate. And what we always say is women can multitask on steroids. So we have to do many things at the same time.
Like many of my male counterparts, I am a one-trick pony. But anyway.
I think you're a pretty badass guy.
Oh, well, thank you so much. How did you decide on your company's name, Female Quotient?
Well, you know what? Everything sort of comes to you. You hear all about the intelligence quotient, IQ. Then everyone started talking about the emotional quotient, EQ. Now comes the female quotient, FQ. When you put women in any equation, the equation gets better. And it's just time we can't equalize until we flip the balance. And, if you have a scale and it starts like this, if you keep putting the same amount, it's going to still be like this. So sometimes you got to flip the balance to equalize the balance. And so, if diversity is good for business, it's time to activate the changes that we need to change and just change the equation by flipping it.
So let's talk about the hashtag See Her movement. Have you seen a lot of success with that?
It's been amazing. So I'm the co-founder of hashtag See Her. We brought it to the White House, and it started in the White House to get more girls in STEM or more girls in STEAM. We added arts to STEM.
STEAM?
So now we're talking about STEAM. And that's why Hidden Figures was created, to bring more awareness to women that have done remarkable things but have been either forgotten or written out of history. And then we brought the movement to the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, to get CMOs, advertisers, to start walking the talk. And the whole mission of See Her is if you can see her, you can be her, and to bring more awareness to portraying girls and women in more accurate and realistic ways in media and entertainment. And we created a GEM measurement, a GEM score, a gender equality measure, so that we can hold ourselves accountable. You can't treasure what you can't measure, which Paul Pullman, the CEO of Unilever, talks about all the time.
You can't treasure what you can't measure. I'm going to use that.
It's a good one, because if you don't have any measurement to hold yourself accountable, you can fall behind excuses of, I don't have the right tools, I don't know what to do, or I'm doing something.
Start cherry-picking the excuses.
So, right. So here, hold yourself accountable. And you can put yourself to a higher standard. And the ANA has been incredibly passionate and purpose-driven on the hashtag See Her movement. Every advertiser has now embraced it, holding themselves accountable, their agencies accountable, their media agencies, their creative agencies. And we're starting to see a real increase in better advertising. And when we have better advertising,
that trickles down, huh?
It trickles all around, because better ads, you want to run them also in shows that portray girls and women in accurate ways. And so advertising inside of shows is a home run, 30% increase when you have the right context. So context, absolutely matters.
So we have an interesting question here, and this is a question I have for myself too. You're part of the Washington Speakers Bureau.
Yes.
You do public speaking right now. This could be considered public speaking. Do you ever still get nervous?
Yeah, of course. You always get nervous, but when you realize that every speech I ever make comes from my heart, and I always say that the best learning, the best knowledge does not come from a textbook. It comes from experience. And when you share your experiences and you share your passion and you believe in what you're doing, you can't goof on that. It is what it is. It is who I am. It's what I do. You can't make this up. I live and breathe what I stand for, and I also am really powered by collaboration. I have amazing partners surrounding me every single day, and we go together. And when you hold each other's hands, I mean, there's a lot of strength and confidence in that. So I really believe that confidence is beautiful, and you need to believe in yourself first before others will believe as well. So
let's talk about your equality boot camps and the Girls Lounge. Tell me a little bit about those.
Wow, thank you. So the Female Quotient has 4 key pillars. Pillar 1 is the Girls Lounge. There's a boys club, now there's a Girls Lounge. I just took the opposite of boy is girl, the opposite of club is lounge, a place where we all belong. Right?
Yeah.
And, inside of the lounge, we have unplugged, authentic conversations.
Oh, so none of this? No cell phones? Unplugged?
No. Well, no. Unplugged meaning raw and real. Like,
okay, got it.
Talk about whatever's
like
on your
MTV
mind.
Unplugged.
Okay, there
we
you go.
Yeah.
It's really just about having real conversations, not the scripted of what you're supposed to say, but actually what you really feel, because that's how truly change will happen. If we keep saying the things we're supposed to say, we keep going in circles, right? So the Girls Lounge is a pop-up at big industry conferences. We call it the home of equality, a place where we all belong. So it's predominantly majority of women, but plenty of men come. And we now have pop-ups at most of the major industry conferences. We also do a lot of custom lounges for our clients and our partners. And we're about to roll out with our SAP partner permanent girls' lounges in university campuses in 116 countries.
Wow.
Which will be really exciting.
That's a lot of countries.
It's a lot of countries. But listen, it's what makes the world go around. We need to all find our voices, own our strength, stand up, stand out. And always stand together, which is, really important.
So, if looking around the world, do you think anyone does it better than us? In terms of equality, in terms of public policy promoting women, in terms of private enterprise promoting women to, very visible places?
Well, what's really interesting, and I just want to go to the 4 pillars. We talked about the Girls Lounge. We also have a talent practice for senior women inside of corporations. The 3rd pillar with the equality boot camps is the equality practice. Because we can empower women, we can, connect women, we can all collaborate for change, but if we don't rewrite the rules in our corporations, women will continue to fall out. So it really is a systemic change, it's a step change, and we need to work on all the pieces. And our 4th is our impact piece, where we give back to organizations like Plan International, supporting girls around the world to get an education. And we know you educate a girl, you educate a family, and it's just incredibly important. So countries doing it best. We have an equality lounge at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. We'll be going on our 4th year, and they measure countries on equality.
Of course.
And there's 4 dimensions that they measure. They measure health, education, business, and government.
Okay.
So those 4 ingredients. Out of 144 countries, 3 years ago, what number was the United States?
33.
Close, 28.
Okay. That was a ballpark. Yeah.
Last year, what number?
Oh gosh, we probably fell. It's probably 41?
Very good, 45. So we're going backwards. However,
And why is that?
because we're not creating solutions for change. We keep admiring the problems, but we are not creating next step change and holding ourselves accountable. But now we are, with the See Her movement, with the boot camps, with the GEM scores, with the measurements for accountability. But the number 1 country, I think 6 years in a row, is Iceland.
Iceland, yes.
Do you know what country's number 6?
Canada?
Rwanda.
Rwanda.
And Rwanda is number 6 because President Kagame, the president of Rwanda, made a conscious decision, not unconscious, a conscious decision to put women in government. So that area, education, government, there was 4 vitals, he flipped the balance and consciously put women in government positions, very qualified women, not just women for women's sake,
Of course.
and flip the balance. So it's all doable. It just requires a conscious mindset.
Justin Trudeau did that in Canada. Half of his cabinet were women.
We can keep giving amazing examples. And, it is important to showcase these examples because it is possible.
What can private companies do then? You talk about rewriting the rules in private companies. Are there some sort of systemic barriers that are challenging diversifying, especially at the highest echelons of all these companies?
I think excuses hold us back, or when we say it's unconscious bias, well, that's crazy because we all know that there's wage gap issues.
Of course.
Women making in general 80 cents on the dollar. Like, I just made you conscious of it. So
it's no longer
unconscious bias. Like, that's crazy, right? So, we look at the wage gap.
Okay.
We look at diversity inside of the companies. We look at vendor relations. Money talks. If you're spending $1 billion with vendors, well, why don't you insist that those vendors have to have diversity?
Federal government does the most business in the world.
And guess what happens? When you tell them that they need diversity, they're going to start creating a diverse workforce, right? No matter where you are. You look at mentorship programs, sponsorship programs, coaching programs. And it's not just fixing the women. We also need to educate the men in today's, expectations generationally. First time in history, we have 5 generations in the workplace. And so we have multicultural, conversations. We have diversity, and then of course we have inclusivity. How do we bring differences together and creating a place of safety and security where everyone belongs? And policies. What is it called when 2 men have a baby together? It's not maternity leave.
I think they'll call it paternity leave.
But is it paternity leave? It should just be parental leave.
Of course.
Like, this is how old school our rules are, but we've never really adapted them for today's modern world. Or leadership values, training programs. It's not in a textbook. It's mindset training. It's getting people to have that conscious mindset, but also respect in our DNA and value communication and holding everyone accountable for creating a workplace of belonging. It's not just the top leader having that responsibility to push it down. Responsibility has to be shared all around at every age, at every level, in every aspect of the organization.
So what do you say to young females who are just starting their career? That's one of our audience questions.
Well, Fatima is here from Plan International, and we just talked about that, and she asked me that question, and I said, I think the most important thing is perception really becomes reality. What Fatima asked me was, in a survey that Plan International just did, boys and girls both equally are interested in STEM careers, in marketing, in across all industries. But yet we see such a small proportion of girls going into STEM. And I said, we have that voice in our heads. Boys don't have it. If there's a job that requires you having 10 skills and a guy can do 6 out of 10, he's like, yep, I got this.
I am totally guilty of that.
Right? But a girl, if she can't do 10 out of 10, she has that voice in her head that says, I'm not qualified, I can't do this. And am I allowed to say something on camera?
You're allowed to say whatever you want.
We say, what I told Fatima, because she's 18, I said, you have to shut that voice up. But my girlfriend Wendy Clark says, you got to shut that bitch up in your head. And you just have to make it go away and believe in yourself. Believing in yourself first that you can do it is really the most important step towards knowing that you can dream big. As my girlfriend Carolyn Everson says, you can dream bigger. And most importantly, you can achieve anything you can imagine. Anything is possible, but it starts with confidence and believing in yourself.
So, and I've read research too that not only men they fudge their resume, but they're also more willing to ask for a raise. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, now listen, no one should have to ask for anything. One of the things that we also see is, and this is just truth, that women in general are based on past performance, men on potential. And so if women have come into the workplace later in life, we are not getting paid the same amount if that past performance keeps kicking in, because we don't have as much past performance, right? And so we're always starting from behind. So we do need to move towards equal pay for equal work. California just passed a law that says you can't ask anyone their past performance salaries. So
New York here as well.
New York. So we're starting to move in the right direction. And interestingly enough, we did a study that showed that 61% of women are very comfortable revealing their salaries. Only 38% of men are.
We hold
I
those
wonder
cards
why.
close.
Exactly. So, I think that, we can really jump way ahead by really acknowledging, and Gloria Steinem says this all the time, equal pay for equal work. Why is this so complicated?
So, but a lot of people say, and this is not my personal opinion, but I always hear, well, there's not really a wage gap because females take time off to raise children, they leave the workforce, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you've heard this many times, Shelley. What is your response to that?
Well, you're losing some of your best talent if you don't rewrite the rules, which is why, Ariana Huffington at Davos 2 years ago said to me, I don't understand why we have exit interviews. Everyone's already left.
Those are so stupid, exit
Right?
interviews.
She says we should do entry-level interviews. And then I started thinking we should do life stage interviews. At every stage of our life, we have different needs. And, do you really want to lose your best talent to caregiving? But if we adjusted accordingly at every life stage, you would attract and retain the best talent and not just the available talent. And so that does require creating policies with permission for everyone, where it's not just maternity leave and not just elective paternity leave, because men don't take it because it typically shows a sign of weakness. And if they do take it, according to Harvard, they play more golf. I'm just saying, I didn't make that up. But why not move towards mandatory parental leave so that all parents, regardless of where you are in life, you take that time to be with family with permission. And so I think it does require rewriting the rules and adjusting by life stage, because it costs a lot of money to replace people. So let's work on, instead of replacing, let's work on attraction and retention, which requires us creating rules for today.
But Shelley, this requires a whole fundamental realignment of the way a lot of companies view their employees. And I'm sure you've been around the block. You see companies that are very employee-centric, and you see some that are not so much. And isn't the way they treat females only one little piece of a million things they probably do to all of their employees?
Listen, if we want the best population of the workforce, we need to be an open organization that evolves. And if you want to attract millennials today, and on International Day of the Girl, if we want to attract the best women into the organization, millennials have purpose in their DNA. They are born with equality in their hearts, men and women. So if we truly want to attract the best talent, then we are going to need to evolve our culture and our organizations and be willing to do that. If not, companies will start finding slowly they will have an erosion of great talent because other companies are going to beat them to them.
Of course.
I mean, that's just survival
especially
of the
in a
fittest.
tight labor market like we have now. So you're traveling soon. You're going to Ecuador and Kenya, is that correct?
Oh, I just came from Kenya. We built a school for girls in the Masai Mara, in the villages, which was incredible. It's like I said, you educate a girl, you educate a family. And so that was really incredible. And now with the WE organization, now we're going to Ecuador. I'm going with my kids, which will be very exciting, to build some schools and help the local villages. And from there...
What role can we play in countries where equality has a very long way to go?
I think we can inspire them with what we're doing. And we need to do more. It's not that complicated. We need to share stories. We need to share case studies of what works and what doesn't. We can't all just share the good stuff. We need to share, and most importantly, we need to go together, because that's truly how we transform a culture and Fortune 500 companies. We need to lead the way and bring others with us.
So my last question, I interview entrepreneurs for a living, like yourself. And I had a female entrepreneur, I can't remember who it was, tell me that a lot of times females have to do when men only have to show, especially when they're pitching for venture capital. And of course, you're very well aware of what percentage of venture capital goes to male-led startups instead of female-led startups. This is, of course, the future of our economy, tech, these new growing companies that are responsible for all these gadgets in our lives and the revolution. How do we change, Wall Street and all these venture firms' mind and get them to invest in more female-led companies?
Well, when you see the percentages of success for female-led companies, there is no conversation to be had. We know that female-led companies, outperform male-led companies. Fact. And so I think that we need to share more case studies of success.
So bring the data.
Bring the data, bring the examples of, great stories in the workplace of entrepreneurs who, I have to cough for 1 second. Sorry. I had a lot to say on that, so I was thinking faster than I think it is about sharing case studies of success. And I just had a meeting with a VC yesterday, an investor from Asia. And he said, Shelley, bring me all of the female founders that you can possibly find. I want to invest in female founders because they are good for business. And so he is going to be flooded.
Yeah, so you think changes are coming, huh?
Change comes not by waiting. Change comes by making it happen and taking that next step. And I learned something from my second boss, Jerry Lukeman, who recently passed. So this is for you, Jerry. He said, you can't try to do something. And I know it was a Yoda, but he said, you either do it or you don't. And he took a pen and threw it on the floor. So we'll do it with this. I won't throw it, but I'll place it for you.
It's pretty tough.
Try to pick it up. So you either pick it up or you don't. So equality is not something you can try to achieve. You either do it or you don't. Make a commitment.
Shelley, I feel like I needed this conversation for my personal life. No excuses, lead by example, just do it.
Well, there you go. And no regrets. You never want to look back in life and say shoulda, woulda, coulda. So live your life, own it, march forward with positivity, proactivity, and most importantly, remember the power of the pack.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shelley.
Can I have a hug?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Tune in soon.